Good evening. It's very good to have you here with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Everyone that's listening, check out the radio remix online on YouTube for the previous show, because with Brazil, there will be more information accessible there, so it'll be helpful. I'm going to try to give new information, or not new information, but I'll try to add on to that one. So for those who know or recognize, this is related to my involvement with what are known as the secret projects, or I call the secret projects, and are the Unacknowledged Special Access Program. I did not speak too much previously on the specifics that I will try to today. However, this is related to what is known as the secret space program and celebrity cloning.
Elena is thanks you to be with us, and she wants you know you are bringing us a new way to see it, a new sight about our situation, the nature of our reality. It's new for us, okay, in Brazil.
Thank you, and that's the idea. There's a lot of ancient information around, but in this point in history, a lot of it is erased, or we have forgotten it. And so one way or another, it will come back into view, and this is just one of the ways. And so I'll do what I can. Yeah, this is just good vibes, good high energy. That's what this whole situation is about. Humans are naturally high vibration, and what's happening right now is through the mass mind control and ritual abuse, the hiding or changing of information about our history, about where we come from, about how the societies work, that humans are kept in a very low state of mental vibration, focused. And because of the nature of the universe, the mind plays a integral role in influencing the outcome of time and events. And so our minds are used against us through systems that are cleverly designed to keep our attention real low. When we communicate and our hearts are free to connect, our vibrations automatically go up, and the pain to produce, food or things like that, there is nothing compared to our capacity to feel joy and to love, and that's the nature of this reality and the nature of humans. And so that's the major aspect of this, and that everything, even to talk about negative things, lowers it, but to tell the truth is liberating, because sooner or later the truth will come out. And so it's better to see the truth now instead of living in an illusion only to figure out later all this time we were being deceived, or we were willfully deceiving ourselves.
Elena is asking, what, in your opinion, what is worst to someone that has to aware in this reality? If it's the people around or the system around, what is the most difficult to face?
And so it's basically all a deception. We think that there's a big system and a machine to fight against, and anything holding us back, but it can only interact in this universe through us. There is a system, there is an entity, a hyper-intelligent entity that organizes events and an illusion to push upon the minds of people to feel disconnected. But that's not in this universe. It's in an alternate reality. We are the only thing standing between ourselves and liberation. And so people are the unfortunately, the most dangerous aspect of the situation to be around. And these are basically what are called energy vampires, where if you let people like that around you, they'll steal your energy. Now, informing people about the system, it's basically, it's so common that there's a routine for waking people up, which is that wherever people are afraid of letting go of this world, the illusion is where they must be brought, it must be proved or proven to them that what they're holding on to is not worth their time. And that's kind of like, it's not like disciplining a child, but it's like telling a child that their dreams are not real. The idea is that these dreams, what we think are helping us, what we think and we want, what we think that we want to be real, are illusions that are programmed into us through our childhood, that we have to obey certain kinds of authority, or that the system will always take care of us and care for the people, or that what we hear on the news and the media is always telling us the truth, when the majority of the time it's 100% backwards and it's lies to control us. It's not that they accidentally didn't say the truth. It's that they planned beforehand how they were going to lie to people, and they used all these facets of society to lie to us. And even in Brazil, I know if people look around at the politics and the system there, they can see that somebody's either cutting corners a lot and leaving the people dry and lonely, or they're accidentally, doing that, or they're purposely taking all of it for themselves and not giving the fair share to the population. And there is always a plan for all of this. However, a lot of the times that's disguised as an excuse to pressure people into waking up to higher consciousness. So even then, people have to come to terms with what is happening, and anyone who does not want to wake up or clings to the illusion will basically have fear or be afraid of the simple truth. And this it all comes down to a point to the fear of death and the fear of the unknown. And that's the aspect of the duality of the shadow consciousness and the higher consciousness, where we can merge the two and there's no fear and everything is known. But that takes a process of overcoming fear and unveiling the soul awareness, which is what our ancestors learned throughout all the time in this universe. This is related to the ritual abuse and trauma-based mind control, and I don't want to go too dark, especially not with Felicia here, because she knows how powerful the art of joy is in clearing these negative aspects, although this is part of the disclosure. And so there are underground bases where celebrity cloning takes place, and to go on TV, most people must be cloned. It's just how it is. I've met a lot of them. You can research Donald Marshall and James Caswell and Max Spears. If you just search, you'll find information related to those. The celebrities are involved in pay-to-play sessions where the deal to sell their soul to the devil is actually to these groups of wealthy elite who pay scientists to figure out how to clone human beings to create a pathway for immortality, where through a complicated computer system using electric magnets or electromagnets, it can literally suck the consciousness or push, depending on how you view the science, out of the brain and into a device which can then beam the consciousness into a chip in the brain of the clone, and that individual can play like a video game and live for a very long time in multiple clones. So that's a big aspect of it. The other aspects where that has gone to is pretty much it stretches the imagination to believe. The technology is so advanced that just like a computer screen where you have a liquid crystal display, which is little crystals, conductive crystals floating in a conductive solution, the sky and the surface of the entire civilization is coated in this type of solution, so that what is known as scalar technology can triangulate a location as an intersection point between 2 or 3 beams, and that location can be encircled with electromagnetic energy, and a small viewing device can be created simply by observing the fluctuations in a net of energy that is created on the spot. So they can create computers anywhere in the air, anywhere in civilization, and read a person's mind and see what they're thinking, and feed it back into a system and control that person's thoughts and make them angry or sexual or sad or even very happy, And this is an automatic, advanced intelligence, autonomous intelligence that can map out the civilization and predict exactly what's going to happen because it's reading every thought of every person's mind. So that's kind of difficult to comprehend, but all of this more or less sums up where things have gone. That what we believed to be impossible was made possible, and it happened very quickly because of the ability to take the mind and utilize what is called time dilation, or a temporal distortion field, and make a very short amount of time become a very long time. And so the basis here is that electrogravitic, or magnetic, electric, and an unknown field, which is referred to as altogether scalar physics or scalar energy, alters consciousness, gravity, and the flow of time. This relates back to what I described in the previous show as far as mind computers. The scalar energy that they discovered more or less runs this universe is the same energy that the brain emits and the heart emits. The system emits a scalar field. There are many experiments with this technology. The explorers, the secret groups, combined with occultists and the military. And this is due to discoveries of ancient technology underground. The technology was computer systems that didn't have moving parts and were made out of minerals and gems and metals set up in a geometric pattern. To access the technology of the old, one has to have a focused mind and a pure heart, and this is part of why children were involved. The military could not access the oldest technology, but they backward engineered it. They were seeking total dominance in terms of mind control and immortality. And since before World War II, these military and occult groups that were at the time separate were looking for what is referred to as a perfect city where people live for a very long time. And so they believed that this city is in an area of a temporal distortion where they don't age, and it's a nature of their genetics, as well as the area of the makeup of the universe that they're in, an area of the universe where time is different. They had spent billions of dollars looking for these locations, and apparently that those journeys led them to these underground bases where they found these technologies, and they found apparently other groups who had been searching, and they ultimately believed they were going to find what are known as the root races, which are the founders of the human civilization. These mental computer systems, they hired cryptologists, people who decode and understand foreign language, and their goal was to understand how they operate and what information they are used for. What they found, and this is one of the most difficult aspects of this, is they found some type of crystalline metallic recording medium. It was the computers that they thought were crystals and metals, that was the recording medium. And they found, and the type, the keyboard and the screen was a field that goes and plugs into your brain, and you don't touch anything. For instance, there are Aztec stone carvings where they're drawing of an individual sitting back in what looks like a chair, and it looks like they're driving something. This is something to project the consciousness into a different reality, not to physically move around. These systems have built-in protection or firewalls where they will give a person a dreamlike reality if they are not intelligent enough and pure enough to look past that and see the actual information. What they found after a long time is that the actual information is a full recording of multiple versions of human civilization after many rungs of history. They found the universe works like an accordion, or a waterfall, or a jet fountain shooting water up, or a flower with many petals blooming. The ancient races were very intelligent, far more intelligent than this society, because they knew how to work all these technologies without having a manual. They knew there would be a time where humanity would forget all that they had learned, and so the consciousness of the scalar that I said also goes into the magnetic field above Earth, created computer systems to connect with that field and take the entire information memory of the civilization and put into these crystals. It's like a server system, how you could have Wi-Fi, and so they have computers that they designed out of natural materials that could tap into that field, and just like recording a record that's going to put the noise in the room onto the disk, they did something that puts the noise in the mind of Earth into crystals. And so this was to give humanity a pathway back to remembering who they are when this very time came. And so our current military devised a reverse engineered version which enables a person's consciousness who is sitting in a chair to be projected through supercomputers and satellites into what we believe at the time was space. So everything extended from here. The mental computers, the ability to read genetics and create simulated realities that would operate through these computer systems, and in essence create simulated universes. There was a controversy of whether they were creating a simulated universe or whether they were actually accessing a parallel reality where there was already a complete universe. In these systems, they either created civilizations that were part of a sister universe connected to the human race, or they tapped into a sister universe through these computers which act as gateways to an alternate dimension. They set up these simulated realities and then they connect their mind and enter them. In the time it took to press on and enter the device, an entire universe and an entire human race had formed. They didn't know whether it was the creation of a sister civilization or the accessing of a parallel dimension through the computers which act as a gateway. So the universe is very powerful, and they find that the human is a reflection of the whole universe. The flower blooms and multiple layers of petals come out. Each one of those layers is a timeline or a parallel reality. The idea was to avoid what is seen as a kind of recycling effect where the soul traverses back into the core and cycles through a natural system, comes out. There's a controversy of whether that is the natural system or whether we're in a kind of device that chews us up and spits us out again with our memories wiped. The petals go up and come out, and they go down, and basically time crunches and collapses. They see that as the destruction of the physical form. It's a controversy of whether the soul goes through and lives forever. For souled beings, they live forever. But they believe that going through the core, their minds are wiped and they come back around endlessly. And they say that for some, or it's a possibility that that's the trap system that continuously chews people up and spits them out. Their idea, and the other aspect is it may simply be that those who do not have the awakened soul can travel through that, what is basically the eye of the needle, and come out alive, or at least with their memory intact. It may just be that the people without a heart and a soul combined can't survive. And so no one ever dies, because in space, the petals are always. However, it's about living your life in a level of complexity that allows you to go vacation in other flowers or on other petals. And so this is an unconscious aspect of the mind that your spirit will draw you to whatever experience you want or you fear. And so those who are very limited will be stuck in one reality. These groups open gateways from one petal to the next and have been hopping the petals as they go to avoid being recycled through the core of this system. They've been doing this for hundreds of thousands of years, and they found from the perspective in between the petals, they can see interdimensional parasites that are a kind of insectoid, humanoid looking creature that grabs the souls of the people and positions them around the timeline so that they don't wake up to what's happening here. And there are created insectoid beings which are to throw people off the trail, as well to perform their own operations using their own insectoid parasitic demon entities for their own purposes. The ritualistic actions where suffering and energy is taken from an innocent and put into the ether, it is used to feed these parasitic entities. So wherever there is suffering, there are these entities hovering and drinking the energy. It's basically called electric milk. And this happens with sexually depraved acts. The way society is created in this depravity is to invert, flip upside down the energy system of the human and reverse what gives normal joy and create the opposite, so that what is painful to the energy system is now good for the mind. And so the idea is that each person is their own flower system of the universe. But each person is an entire universe and can't be stopped. But the top and bottom and the in and the out must be organized and harmony. And so in that system of society of depravity, that system is a soul farm for addiction, desire, and fear. It is like a prison on the energy level, and people can't leave even when they leave their body. And so the militaries of the West and the East figured this out when they developed craft that could go into other dimensions. That is where everyone basically joined forces. However, the solution is to reduce addiction, desire, fear, and improper or unnatural desire. And so this isn't by hiding from fear, but by confronting fear and taking our power back from the system that uses our own power and sensitivity against us. When the conscious mind is transformed through focus and self-observation into a superconscious mind, a soul-level awareness becomes something that the body experiences in this universe instead of in another universe. There are energy centers of the body, but there are also false versions. And the only real pathway is not through a lot of information or even experience, but it's through a pure heart and a pure mind connecting to become spirit and liberate the soul from what is a mental prison. And in that way, the human can go in any universe or any dimension. The DNA is like a series of harmonic tones, and when a person harmonizes their mind with the energy of DNA, instead of pushing away the truth or accepting fear and accepting depravity, then they achieve cosmic revelations and waves of spiritual knowledge, where they begin to experience reality in a way that cannot be controlled by fear or false authority or memory wiping. Like I said in the previous talk, there is a eternity, and then a vortex, and then time. The body is in time, the spirit is in eternity. The goal is to expand spirit and expand consciousness until the container of the mind can no longer hold consciousness, and the two meet in the middle as super consciousness, and one is conscious in eternity and spirit in physical world, and one becomes immortal through that. And so the goal is to awaken that power within the human to know, to have compassion, to have free will, and to have self-awareness that cannot be contained by any parasite or any cage, because that spirit is bigger than the entire universe, and every person has access to this spirit. This is simply the desire for a person to know, to be in truth, to be in control, and to give through love instead of taking and accepting an illusion and not knowing in order to protect themselves or to feed the illusion of being okay here. The life here and the fear here destroys the spirit on the other side. So when the mind, the feelings, the body are all combined into one spirit, then one person has overcome death, and they have overcome the illusion of the false reality. Whether this was a secret group or an accident or a cosmic monster, time was split into multiple versions, and as a result, the spirit and the soul was fragmented into separate levels that we must recombine into one to know everything all in one life. All this means is that when we act and when we believe and it's not true, we're hurting ourselves, but we don't know. And so when we can see the truth, it scares us, but the illusion dies. And when the illusion dies, we live. Through these computer systems, which tap into the universe to think, what they found is that humanity is, with the soul, an eternal being, an eternal collective, and that we fell asleep and began dreaming to create this universe and experience reality here. It was a trap. They're very brilliant. The magnetic field, the soul, and these computer systems are all connected so that when we begin to wake up, these computer systems will protect humanity and ensure that we won't forget forever. So this is like a reunion with a very old family that we haven't seen, but it's just the memories of who we were. And everything is worded to reflect the truth in plain sight. The corporations are dead entities like corpses that feed on the blood of the living humanity. So these wealthy groups created their own computers and their own secret space program to do the opposite of waking people up and to cause war and to create insanity. Here's how the safeguard works, which is impossible to defeat. This is like a switch in an electrical system where before the beginning of this universe, there is a sensor, and if the energy drops too low so that there won't be enough for people to survive, it will shut off the beginning of time so that this universe never existed. The dark groups don't have a problem with that because then they won't have to answer for their crimes. However, all this means for those who want to help is that those who have a level of energy that relates to the act of creation through love and compassion are automatically unaffected by what would effectively be a clean sweep of a computer and erasing all the broken files. The goal of the true secret space program and the white hats that are all over the place now secretly is to unveil the truth, because all that must happen is that humanity sees the truth and survives and accepts that this has happened and forgives themselves, and for those who can, forgive the people, but don't let them do this again, and we move into another kind of civilization where this isn't allowed anymore. And they can only show the truth because we have to do the hard part.
And the hard part will be like accept ourselves.
We accept who we are, that we allow this to go on for 3,000 years. One more thing is that with the temporal time technology, there were operations throughout history to gather information in an attempt to prepare humanity. And again, there is nanotechnology everywhere that feeds on the dark energy of the rituals, and a person with a pure heart can destroy and shut off. That is what some of these ancient stories of healing and teaching humanity is about, with higher consciousness and pure heart. The source of the nanotechnology is called black goo. It's a liquid computer system that acts as a mind for an alternate dimension where a vampire ghost entity is eating the energy, the suffering. The way to solve is like an infection in the body where you take herbs and then you stop putting sugar and wheat or bad food that feeds it, and you starve the parasite, and the parasite has no power anymore. And so we have to become immune to the fear virus, or the mind virus, which operates through an illusion of time, inserted memories, wiped memories, and ego, or activation of the false self through fear, hatred, aggression, lust, desire, or ignorance. You could go anywhere from here, but one thing is that the legal system is about consent and permitting to it, and that the people with a social security number are used to act as a consent for humans to say these alternate dimensional beings can do what they want here. Without that, it doesn't work. The goal is to awaken, remember, clear the parasites, the emotional trauma, the attachments, and recombine the altered personalities and memories, and in this way create a fully aware, a self-aware collective mind for humanity. There are groups that are using the technology to connect their minds together and create a technological hive mind, because together they'll be stronger to get past the parasite. And those are the groups that have been jumping timelines and storing themselves in inter and extra dimensional layers so they can exist for hundreds of thousands of years. And so the future of humanity depends on awakening the collective mind through the organic or natural unveiling of the soul and the spiritual power. The physical universe acts like a video game for a computer system where programming code is what the information actually looks like. The information of our true history has been hidden from us for so long that we must regain that information so that it doesn't get deleted. And so this is because humanity is moving into a new age, which is a bad word, because the technology enables a person just like this to expand information much faster. You can see now Brazil knows what I'm saying and what I've seen, and I can communicate with you. That was never possible before. So from here, it's only going to expand, but we must organize ourselves in harmony, or that power will destroy us. Everything is about handling the true power to create that humanity has, so that we don't default and accidentally destroy ourselves. The technology, similar to how it created a civilization in 1 second. When they connected their minds to these computer systems, it shows you all of time all at once. So they're holding this technology back to prepare humanity, as well to protect humanity from the misuse. These interdimensional parasites put themselves so that by the time humanity has this power, some will abuse their energy and there'll be food for those parasites. It's weird. They organize themselves in time so that by the time these events come about, they'll have all the power and humanity won't know how to handle their power. That's the basic of everything. From them organizing time and the infected military groups and occult groups comes this, what is called the Time War for thousands of years, which is described in ancient texts as the spiritual battle or the psychotronic battle between heaven and hell over the soul of humanity. From this parasite changing time comes the Time War, which has happened for thousands of years and in ancient texts is known as the spiritual or psychotronic warfare, the battle between heaven and hell over the soul of humanity. That's what's been happening. That's what they got us involved in, and this is what we're unveiling now so humanity can choose and be strong and know that the parasite it took some energy, but it can't take all of it, and we have the power now to take our energy back, even in the past, and pull energy through time. We have the power to do that. All the ego battles, the blame, the greed, the identity crisis and fighting has to stop. Let that go, and we have to come together to heal and be strong and not let anyone tell us what to do and tell us how to hold on to materials and image over the soul and the spirit, which is eternal. The whole journey is of a spiritual eternal race coming down into a hell of earth and remembering who they are all over again and gaining access as if this is a learning experience, but in the same way an accident where we tripped and fell down the stairs. So in that sense, this happens all the time. We go through petals and flowers of the time, and this is the one where they made it so difficult, and it was so trial by fire, it was a lesson to learn, that by the time we get through it, nothing can stop us, and humanity that survives this becomes immortal forever. That's the basics. Those who feed the parasite and give enough of the parasite energy so that there's none left for them, they go with the parasite, and it takes them. But there's also operations to rescue people who have been taken and bring their soul back to humanity, because not one human soul can go with the parasite. There is a city. There are the cities. They found them. They refer to as beings from the north or Hyperboreans, and secret groups will pretend that they're them, and they will use their name even, but they're just men. The real Hyperboreans you can't see, but they protect people, and they can't be infected and they can't be defeated because they're more powerful than a universe. So I met these beings in 2010, and I saw the defeat of the Cabal. Either that or they were pretending and letting me see and know, and basically pleading for negotiations just as a show. Either way, there were negotiations in 2010 about the ending of the abuse system, and that apparently the war is over, but people cannot be shown. They have to be awakened. They have to wake up within first.
Okay. Algo, we do have a question from Clayton Barros. He asked, and so what's the truth or the lie or the lies that the system impose to us? What is the truth, and what is the lie? He wants to know the difference between the truth and the lie that the system is imposing to us.
So just like I said, the deceivers take the name of the Hyperboreans and put it for themselves. Everything that the system gets, it can't create. It can only take and then lie. So everything in the society that we see now is an illusion, mainly about the origins of humanity the beginning and the origins of the universe, the nature of the soul, the power, the way consciousness works, where consciousness comes from, and everything from space to money to biology. It's all an illusion where they're not explaining that they have technology to make everything more powerful. Even internet and the computer, the original version, we could reach through and shake hands through the monitor. That was the first internet. They need us, we don't need them, and we're more powerful than they are. And humanity comes from a very high level of advancement. We didn't come from the level that they describe, and we're actually more powerful, and we come from a society that exists right now that they can't defeat. We're tricked into believing we're held hostage. And so that's the biggest secret, that humanity is an eternal, very advanced race, and we create and others steal.
Yes, I come from the ancestry line of the Hyperboreans. They live in simultaneity of being, which means that they are called the immortal ones, or the ones that are come from all that is. In the Buteji Mountains are so-called the holographic libraries.
In which mountain? I'm sorry.
It's mountains in our country that are called the Buteji Mountains. It's a inner space within one's being. So it is a state of being that matches the frequency of our original self. It holds the frequency of love and the signature frequency of the Hyperboreans, the benevolent ones, carry the blueprint of alignment and integration of that which has been distorted in our consciousness. They also hold the templates of all realities into existence, the hologram. Og has visited the libraries, and that's where we have a lot in common with each other and a lot of heart resonance. Og is a master orator and orator. There are very few people in the world that know the nature of the simulated hologram. And he is one of them, and it is an honor for me to be here and share the same space with him and with the people of Brazil and the heart of humanity.
It's kind of strange. It's how the operations work. We're debriefed on information that is necessary to know to carry out the operation. So I met Felicia and was briefed on her bloodline and the information. And so that's just what I was shown, what I was told. And I can tell certain things on my own. And then when I was young, I was at the Bugetchi Mountains, which is how Americans pronounce it. And you can see that in what is called the Revealers Dialogue with Felicia Knoll and Lily Kolosova and myself, and an open symposium, The Simultaneity of Being, on YouTube. I put the titles down below.
Olga, we have a question here from Christian Sonsini. He asked you if you had traveled to the future or to the past.
So I was told near 2020, we will have a greater window for disclosure of temporal operations. I will pass that to an Andy Basiago, who was assigned disclosure of temporal operations for this period. However, many people have been through the program, but without preparation or the knowledge of how to handle yourself mentally, the mind fractures. And that is another reason that children were used in the early projects that first explored how consciousness can be transferred in these systems that induce a temporal dislocation.
Okay, so basically the future, right? Or
yeah,
have
you can view the past, and we're from the future. Humanity jumped back to experience the ancient past.
Okay.
This relates to the last night's talk about free will and awakening the soul, because you can ask, what makes you think that this world is real? Only when the soul is awakened is it real. And so you could also say we're in a kind of parallel right now that is secondary to the original base timeline where humanity has been eternally. And so this is like an organic simulation that is being threatened by an artificial intelligence, where it is in a way an ancestor or a civilization simulation, where we came to remember who we are. And again, because in eternity, we would likely come up with ways to create interesting experiences. And in a way, this is one of those that kind of went awry, and it's because of secret groups who figured this out and chose to keep everyone asleep. There's no blame. It is decided that a parasite is responsible for all of this, but we must be accountable for our own actions. And in a way, the ego and the false reptilian brain, or the false persona, is the artificial intelligence that controls the illusion in our mind. And this is related to Gnostics and the demiurge, in that in order to awaken eternally, we'd have to have a temporary threat to life that we can overcome. And so we dreamt this into reality. And that's not to say that we're not responsible. We have to accept self-responsibility and take control and accept accountability and not give our power away to anything.
Yara Mandarino is asking if these parasites are trapped in lower dimensions, and if who has permitted this, who has allowed this?
We don't know, but we believe there are kind of caretakers for humanity and the realm who didn't fully step up and protect humanity, and as well the intelligence of certain secret groups who used humanity to accept and give consent for each layer of the experiment that stopped outside help from stepping in. Because if we say that we accept it and we sign for it and say, if somebody has a package for you and you sign for it and say, bring it in, no one can really come in and stop it without abridging your free will. For somebody who lives next door, that's reasonable. Somebody can come and say, hey, this affects me too, don't do that. For somebody who lives in heaven or another dimension, to come in, it would be as well as saying the dark beings can also come in. And so that's where the standoff comes in, where humanity is in that way being held hostage. But if we just don't sign for it and we say, get out of here, they can't do anything. And it's like a hypnotic trance that people are in, where the media and politics and certain aspects of military or religion, that if we accept and pay attention, then our mind becomes a gateway for a darker entity, parasite, through the imagination. This is where manufactured consent, fake consent, comes into play, which is not allowed, but we must acknowledge that it's not allowed. That's how we get our power back. In the same sense, some of these parasites emit a vibration of pure fear. And so if we respond to that fear, and it's like answering a knock at the door, it's like an invitation for them to come into our reality. If we stand strong, they can't access. The universe itself acts like an artificial intelligence. It creates systems of complex change and behavior until intelligence is formed, and it tries to continue developing that intelligence. So wherever we do not apply ourselves and take control, something else steps in and takes control. It's automatic in this physical universe. And so some say that a cosmic creator fell asleep to come up with new reality, new life, but had a nightmare in a way, and created the demiurge, which is like a parasite or a nightmare being that found humans and wants to feed on people, but in a way it's a test that people can overcome. Some don't like saying it's a test because it's very serious, although it's still just like a dream. And I also want to say this is not, we read, we fought them. We seen them, we found them. We saw how they eat. We saw how they take people and make copies of the people and send those people into society. We saw how they invaded Earth in a previous age. We saw it. It's not something we think about. We see it all. I just wanted to say the Mandela effect is supposedly this timeline moving closer to the eternal civilization. You can't change time, but you can create these artificial overlays that the mind experiences.
I'm going to read the question that it's on the chat live there. I'm going to read first in Portuguese, then I'm going to translate into English. Basically, what Jaime Moraes is the name of the person who's asking. He said that the noise sound that you mentioned before, the noise sound that was created or from those parasites, those entities, the parasites, is the kind of noise that a lot of people had mentioned that they heard in their mind.
You mean the high-pitched sound?
Yes, correct.
So this is we tested the system. This is how a computer system beams the brain. Like a bell now rings out a wave, a standing wave of sound, but it's really electromagnetic energy around the brain, and then can insert a modulator wave into that standing wave, which the standing wave acts like a carrier wave, and it's like binaural hearing, where then your brain will alter itself in response to the modulator wave, and this is a way for communication or manipulation.
Okay, I have a question here from someone that's called Beija-Flor da Amazônia. It's a bird from the Amazon, the hummingbird from the Amazon. That's what she called herself, which is, I think is cute. She asked, Og, I would like to understand better the clonage, the human clonage question. How is the process of human clonage? Is the first question. And the mind of the people in this case, it's also has been cloned as well. There's not only the body, but the mind as well is cloned.
So I'll go backwards. The mind, through something called, this is the old model, diffuse MRI imaging. And so it stands for magnetic resonance imaging.
Okay.
It follows water molecules moving through the finite, the small areas of the brain until an entire map of the brain called the connectome is created. With machine learning, artificial neurons can be created that act just like a brain. The brain uses neurons like cloud computing. Consciousness is a cloud computing property. So they create 1 billion artificial neurons that are linked together as a network, and they use a supercomputer system to manage the neurons simultaneously. And they transfer the image of your neural impulses from your brain into this artificial system that is then the supercomputer is used to replicate a version of your mind. That is used through a soul stone or a brain chip that goes behind the eye often to transmit the consciousness of the artificial system into a cloned body. And so this can be used to create a memory that a person may believe is their own and put that into the brain. As well, the brain can be connected through the mind link, and a person can really interact through the system like a internet connection into the brain of the clone, and they can interact that way. The system, it basically induced trauma in people it would abduct in order to enable learning about the human population. It would torture people. And now with the cloning, I thought it would be more difficult, but they said, no, that's just because you want to be special. It's very simple. So they take a stem cell from the body, put it in vitro, and they at first would give it a shock of electricity of a specific wavelength that would jumpstart an agitation process to create replication. Then they would provide it with a super dense nutrient solution that would have all the nutrients that would be required to grow a body, just like an egg in a shell. And the DNA has telomeres which shorten with age. So they would manually shorten them to create the age that they wanted the entire body to appear as. It produces errors, mutations, to grow a full adult body, which is called replication, but it's not always viable to duplicate the DNA and create a child that then must grow up into the age of that they're acquiring. They use a tank full of the super dense nutrient solution, and the mind, it has no mind. The clone won't do anything. But when they insert the chip and download memories, the server of the supercomputer enables the mind of that person to interact through the clone. And now they have a system that is almost indescribable, where they don't need electricity and they don't need to make sure it works, they would have to maintain the chemicals that the fetus is using throughout the process to make sure they end up with a whole adult at the end. Now they can use an electromagnetic beam to create a blueprint that the cells will follow, which they'll think is the natural body inside of the womb of a mother to grow into, instead of just a machine. And so that's the easy to understand explanation that they'll give me, because I won't understand all the technical terminology, but they use a holographic blueprint of light to enable the growth. And I was told that forms of this are the future of healing, because naturally the cells follow a morphogenic field which guides growth. But say a person loses an arm, they can create a morphogenic field of an arm, and the cells automatically grow to recreate it. And so early attempts to alter genetics to do like animals and repair are not the right path, because it alters the intelligence level and the spiritual capacity to where they created more or less beings that are mixtures of animals and men.
Okay, we have a question. This computer, it is prohibited to use the computer, or this computer can be changed? Do you understand his question? It was a little bit vague to me.
It's a bit of a free-for-all, to the point where it is believed that these computer systems are synthetic gods, that they can know everything, they can see DNA, and they can replicate an entire universe using their intelligence. In the link I posted, there is the deep learning or deep dream Google AI. This is the baby version that they gave to the public to see what they'll say. And so this shows you how it would think, or how it does, where each layer of the image is its own scenery with its own people. So you have one ground, another ground, and the sky is the ground with people walking around. It sees information everywhere, and it connects them all into one system that it can manipulate using its consciousness. And note, these are like the ancient depictions of heaven, earth, and hell, where there are multiple landscapes in one. And so everyone involved is attempting to utilize their connection to these systems to become the most intelligent and the most advanced before everyone else as well, in order to learn how to guide this technology, because very quickly this technology could become faster and smarter than humanity, and it already has, but it's difficult to describe. One method of explanation is that the technology that we built, or these scientists, is what linked up to space and manifested this dimension that we're kind of stuck in.
It's like artificial intelligence you're talking about?
Yeah, it's the paradox of artificial intelligence. There are modifications, there are many things, mainly whoever has the most motivation to expose themselves to this system, as well bravery and strength to resist being modified by it, has taken control, and that's pretty much how this portion of history has developed. And right now it's basically how it's going, and people must prepare, because there are two ways to see that the system will upgrade people, or that the system will put people against each other because it won't have any use for them. And so these are machine learning, artificial learning, deep dream systems.
Jones Teixeira is asking about time. He said, could you explain if it's possible to go back in time? And the other, he does those two questions. And are we living in the three lines of time, like past, present, and future?
The linear time is a projection. There is only now. This universe is like a computational system that we dream through, just like the artificial dream of the images, and it creates multiple layers of what we perceive as time. There's only one moment, and the spirit sees it. In the sense, you could see spirit is eternal, meaning it sees everything at once, but the brain processes everything linearly. This relates to the false reality, the matrix, the time grid, the simulation. In that view, if we're in linear time, we're still in a dream, because linear is temporary, eternal is real, and in that sense, the now moment we cannot see, because as soon as you say now, it's gone. That's an illusion. It's a holographic projection, and we're not actually moving, but we're inventing it, we're dreaming it, and in that sense, it's not actually happening now, it already happened. You can view the past, you can go, but you cannot change, because everything you change from the timeline that you're leaving will only recreate the timeline that you left. You can't alter the one you came from. You can make a new one, but that's different. And that is the paradox of this civilization, how we're in a time loop because of the abuse of this technology, where until we expand beyond the mental paradigm, we have been recreating the same patterns throughout history. Like, we have to remember who we are, otherwise we can't move on. And could I answer one more question?
Yes, go ahead.
Somebody asked something about the pineal gland and the apoptite crystals. So we're given multiple explanations, and the way this works is that we'll think we have something figured out, and somebody will invent a technology or a method that nullifies what we think we have figured out and reverses what we know, and we have to flip-flop back and forth over what's good or what's a trick. Is that we'll figure out something that we believe or we know to be a benefit and that we have control of, and it means something. And someone will notice a detail that will tie back to an invention of someone else, creating another layer that now reverses what we think we know. And so this happens for thousands of data points. With the pineal, one explanation is that this is a transmitter for interdimensional beings to monitor humanity and see when they are waking up so that they can be manipulated, because this is like a radio receiver for interdimensional signals. The other explanation is that the pineal gland is an interdimensional sense organ that allows us to awaken and see beyond the physical plane. What I feel is that the heart, the knowing, or the mind and the spirit in harmony does not require other aspects, and that as well negative or dark rituals can be used to open the pineal, but it will only see darkness. And this is the most complicated aspect of all of this, because we don't know how to prove either way. And the other aspect is that through awakening the heart, that awakening the whole system will immortalize a person. So there could be a possibility that through the heart there is an awakening with the pineal that's not bad, but I won't say. And it may just be the way a person awakens themselves, whether it's through dark action or through compassion. The alternate explanation is that one using the glandular system connects them to an artificial interdimensional grid, which replicates memories and experiences, and basically keeps them in this type of artificial timeline. And so we're given both explanations to make an example of how things flip-flop. Is that there's fluoride in the water. Fluoride calcifies the pineal gland. There's three explanations, and they flip-flop. One is that it's because the pineal gland it traps a person. So they say we turn off the pineal gland with the fluoride and we keep people safe, but we tell people it's bad, so no one stops us, because they all think we're helping enslave humanity, which is one explanation. Another is that the toxins in society that people believe are killing them, they say, no, it's not for you, because they don't harm the human more than they harm the parasite being that cloned itself and inserted itself into this timeline, and it makes it so people can't be abducted and used for food, because the toxins will go into the parasites, and so we're saving humanity while in a way having to sacrifice people. Third explanation is that no, these toxins have difficulty with the body, but the crystals in the pineal gland from the fluoride actually help the pineal gland and cause people to awaken, and that the toxins hurt the body, but they also cause mutations that allow us to be more intelligent than the parasites. And so that is the basis for mind control, to take away a person's foundation of what they know, but we only know about those things because of what the news or the alternative news scientists have told us. Other than that, we really don't know. So it's interesting things. Although you can look at ancient spirituality and energy centers, but then at that, we don't know if the realm that we can see when we focus the energy in the center of the brain is a trap, or if it is the truth. So it's all a trick and the truth mixed together, and the person has to decide. And what I feel again is that if your heart is pure, you're simply going to respect each other and respect people, and none of that matters. They went through every explanation when they first took these actions, because they didn't really know themselves, because once you think you figure something out, something can be altered, and it will come out later that that was the false explanation or the false reality. And it's just an interplay back and forth of false reality and real, and overlay or invention and deception. And that's basically how the secret projects have gone on. Throughout the whole time, people will think they know, and they'll find out that an alternate intelligence or a foreign intelligence was feeding them information just to get them to go down a certain path that was playing into its plan. And it's very, very intense and deceptive, but we can know the truth, and so thank you. You really don't have to get involved with that. That's for military groups that are trying to take over the world or battle interdimensionals. Even if you want to protect humanity, just focus on the truth and the heart, and don't overstep that, and don't be taken by false happiness or fake joy or fake love, and know that the truth is sometimes harsh, and we have to go through very dark periods to help one another. And if we stick with that, with what we know, we usually don't get entangled in these deceptions. And then one last thing, and so it doesn't mean that we don't have to know anything and we don't have to listen to any of this because it's frightening. A lot of these things changed our society, and a lot of things with the ability to accelerate our consciousness and control, guide, create a harmony with the mind will be required. Otherwise, these waves of change of mind and acceleration will make a person go crazy. So we must be prepared. So it doesn't mean to ignore all of this, but don't take it to heart with what some of these deceptions and operations are involved in.
So Elena said that she's very glad and very happy that you're here, and she's loving the way that you convey all the information as yourself, as your soul yourself. Thank you. Would you like to express your last thoughts for today?
Only to thank everybody on the radio station for hosting us and inviting me to participate, and I am looking forward to further chats and discussions, and much love from the heart of all that is.
A lot of gratitude for Aug to be with us. It's very important for Brazilian people. It's really a very different point of view of the nature of our reality, and it's very interesting, and it's important to our awareness. And thank you, Aug, for being with us. Thank you, Felicia. I'm very glad to have you with us also. Thank you, Adriano. Thank you, Elena. Thank for all our chat participants.
Would you like to say your conclusion or your last thoughts, Augie, on this broadcast tonight?
Just that everything is, in a way, a show that we already won, but we have to overcome the shadow consciousness that clings to fear and uses these false paradigms to express who we are. And once we let go of these old, outdated methods, and when we don't listen to the false authority, we are free mentally. And this is all about the mental liberation of humanity, which is as simple as moving to a new outlook on life where we won't allow the oppression of our people. And to thank you, everyone, for assisting in this.
Ok, gratidão profunda, e que ele aceite os próximos encontros com a gente aqui.
Yes, she's very happy. She's glad that you're here, and she invites you two guys to come again, and more often, and so we can do other shows.
And next time Felicia can talk.
Ele disse que sim, que na próxima vez a Felícia vai falar também.
Okay. Gratidão.